dietitian.
I'm Anthony Verona. I'm the culinary director for UH and Sodexo. Welcome, everybody.
And today we're going to be making a sweet potato and turkey hash, which is a balanced way to reuse some of your Thanksgiving leftovers.
Sure is. Let's talk about the recipe. So not only are we going to make a hash, but we're going to poach an egg on top for extra protein, flavor. This particular hash doesn't have a sauce, but that yolk is going to add a lot of beautiful sauce to it. So let's talk about our ingredients, and we'll talk about poaching, because that's kind of a scary technique that I think a lot of folks might be a little intimidated about. We got some leftover turkey. We're just using white meat, but the next day after Thanksgiving, perfect, shredded up a little bit. I just chopped it up. We have some sauteed sweet potatoes. Hopefully you have sweet potatoes left over. Maybe you roasted them or something. The mashed ones probably wouldn't work as well if you had the marshmallows on top. Let's stay away from that. Then we have some onions and some peppers that we're going to saute here in a little bit. This is a very good, quick cook time. We have some fresh thyme, some sage, a little bit of garlic, some smoked paprika. So we're going to get that started, but our eggs are going to take about 4 to 5 minutes, 6 minutes maybe. But we want to talk about the liquid. So I have a poaching liquid here. What's that? That's water and a little bit of white vinegar. Okay, so about 2 quarts of water, about 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. What does the white vinegar do? It helps set that yolk, so you have a nice, so the yolk's not, or I'm sorry, the white is not all floating around. It gives it a little bit of structure. As soon as it hits that vinegar, you don't want to add too much vinegar to where the egg tastes like vinegar, but just enough makes it set up really nice. Let's talk about the poaching liquid and the eggs here. So then we'll get started on our hash. So the poaching liquid, I have water again with a little bit of white vinegar. I just have it right up to a boil, and then I turn it down just to a small simmer. Best way to do it is to take your thermometer, and you want about 190 degrees. If it's boiling too hard, you're going to break apart the yolk. So we're on live TV, so let's get this going. This is at the perfect temperature. I like to break my eggs in a bowl rather than just break the egg in there, right? Why do I do that? The yolk could break, then you got to fish it out and do all that kind of stuff, okay? This is an important tool right here. Spoon with slots, because we're gonna fish it out here in a little bit. All right, so what I like to do is I'm going to give this just a quick stir. What I do that causes a little bit of a vortex, and that's going to help set the yolk, or the white. I don't know if you can see it here. And we're going to drop that in. What I like to do is kind of edge the water and just kind of edge it in, if you know what I mean. We're going to let that go. Okay, so we got that going. That's going to take about, depending on how you like your yolk. I like my white set, but my yolk runny. That's just me personally. So we're going to let that go. You don't want to touch it. Watch that temperature, though, because you don't want it boiling. You want it slight simmer, 190 degrees. Once you do it a couple times, pretty simple. So we're going to let that go. So we just put our hot pan on, medium high heat. We do want to get a little bit of color on this. So I'm going to throw my onions in with a little bit extra virgin olive oil and my peppers. Get those started first, and then we're going to go with our sweet potatoes. Our sweet potatoes are already cooked. Remember, there's very little fat in here, so I put about 2 or 3 tablespoons in there. We're just going to make this for one portion, so a little bit of onion and a little bit of peppers. We're hearing some nice sizzle. That's what we're looking for. We're going to keep that sauteed. Okay, garlic. Piece of garlic, you've seen how to peel it, not a big deal. I cut that little stem off. I put my knife right on top of my garlic. Give it a little smash, pretty simple. I take the tip of my knife. At no point am I cutting it, really. You see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of smashing it. Boom, done. Perfect garlic every time. All you need is about 1 clove for that. We're going to add some fresh sage to this. What I like to do is just a quick chiffonade. What is that? We just roll it up, kind of like a cigar. And we're going to just run our knife through it to get these nice ribbon effect. We're going to put half in now, and then we're going to put half in at the end. Why do we put herbs in now? Because we want to get the flavor in, but then at the end we want that freshness. So we're going to put that half in now. We're going to keep that stirring. I already cut some parsley up. Now I said we're going to put in half now, but with fresh thyme, you really don't need to do that. You really want the thyme to cook a little bit. So we're going to put the fresh thyme in now. We're going to keep our eye on this and stir it, and then keep our eye on the poached eggs as well. So Bailey, why don't you talk about sweet potatoes real quick?
Yes.
How good are sweet potatoes for you?
Sweet potatoes are great, and they're one of the most important components of this dish. So you have the turkey that brings in that lean protein, and the sweet potatoes bring in this thing called complex carbohydrates. And a lot of times we hear people talk about complex carbohydrates, but do you know what complex carbohydrates really are?
You asking me?
Yes.
No?
No. See, but you've heard the word before, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so everyone's heard the word, but we don't really know what it is. And that's why today I'm going to dive into some chemistry with you guys, just because to understand it, I think you really need to know the chemistry. And as dietitians, we actually have to go through 4 different chemistry classes. Fun fact, we're 1 class away from minoring in chemistry. So we got a lot of chemical knowledge in our brains. So I kind of drew some things for you guys today to kind of explain what these complex carbohydrates are. So we have simple carbs, which has either 1 molecule or 2 molecules connected. These, of course, break down easily because there's not many there. So these simple carbs are good for, say, you're running long distance or you're doing a very long workout and you need to get some really quick sugar to spike your blood sugars up to keep giving you that really rapid energy. But complex carbohydrates, on the other hand, are normally 3 molecules or more long. This means it takes longer for them to break down, and that leads to prolonged energy throughout the day. So I made a chart that kind of shows the effects on your blood sugars. So we have our black line here. That is our simple carbohydrates. We see there is a quick increase and then a quick decrease. So that, as you see, you're going to feel kind of hungry after just eating a simple carb alone because it's having a quick increase. But then we have our complex carbohydrate, which we see it takes longer for that increase. And then to dip down, that also takes longer to fully dip down. And as we see with complex carbohydrates, our blood sugar doesn't spike as much as it does with simple. Now imagine if you did this with a fat and a protein like we have in this meal. That means that curve would be even lower, which means your blood sugars would not go as high as even just a complex carbohydrate by itself. So that's kind of the cool science behind complex carbohydrates and why they're so great for our bodies.
Awesome. Cool. I didn't know that. I was busy cooking. I wasn't listening. So I don't know, while Bailey was talking, I added some smoked paprika, I added the turkey, and I added the sweet potatoes, and they're all coming together, a little bit of salt and pepper and a little bit more oil. So what I want to do is get just a tiny bit of crust on there. This is never going to be like a corned beef hash, right? Corned beef hash has all that fat, potatoes, and they kind of get like a cake, right? Mm-hmm. Which you know, you go to those diners and get corned beef hash. It's never going to be like that, but it's very similar. I can tell you, I just tasted it, and it's really good. But I don't know if you can tell, but I'm getting some nice caramelization on there, okay? All right, we're going to add a little bit of parsley right at the end, because this is done. I mean, this is how long it took. The rest of my sage doesn't need any more salt. That smoked paprika, the salt and pepper really brightens it up. Sweet potatoes love a little bit of paprika, especially that smoky stuff. And then we're going to do a plate presentation here. We're going to plate this up. Let's finish talking about the eggs real quick. So I pulled these eggs out. I did some earlier, but I wanted some fresh ones. Again, I like my yolks runny, but my whites set. And then if you can see, Bailey, can you see that? See how the whites are set?
Yes.
But the yolk is nice and runny, and I'm going to show you here real quick what that's going to look like on the plate. Okay, so let's take our hash. Turn off my stove. We're just going to plate this up right in the middle. Bailey, before we move any further, blow on that because it's hot. Tell me if it's seasoning. What do you taste in there with all the herbs and stuff like that?
Let's see.
It's going to be hot.
Can definitely taste the turkey. Taste that sage, the thyme, The smoked paprika, it's pretty
Good, good. See what I'm doing here? I'm putting a little bit of a nest in there for this. And I did dab this with a little towel. Now, what you can do, a lot of people probably like, oh man, I can probably do it for 1 or 2 people, but what if I have a party of 5 or 6 or 8? The best way to do this is poach your eggs just a little bit under, okay? And really, the temperature of the egg is going to be really up to, the eye, and after doing it a while, you really can't stick a thermometer in there and make sure it's at temp. So you got to play with that. But you can put it in a little bit of a cookie sheet with a tiny bit of the poaching liquid, right? Cover it with foil and put it in the lowest oven you can possibly, and you can do them in batches, 2 at a time, 3. I could probably put 4 or 5 in here. So you do 4 or 5, 4 or 5, 4 or 5, and then you got 15, and you can do a nice platter, or if you have the day after Thanksgiving, you got family over, stuff like that, okay? A little bit of parsley. Why not? A little bit of smoked paprika right on the top.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful, and that's it. So let's cut this open. I really want you guys to see this, okay? Look at that.
Perfect
yolk. See how the white is cooked, but the yolk is runny?
Perfect.
I mean, that's the way I like it. I don't know about you guys. So let's do this one. Look at that. Just perfect. And then that's going to mix in there with you could put cheese in here, I guess, right?
You could put cheese in there.
It'd be kind of amazing. Let's taste this up real quick.
And I recommend if you put cheese on there, put it in the oven for a little bit so that cheese gets nice and melty on top.
One thing I forgot was to add a little bit of salt and pepper onto my egg. Eggs are tasty, but there it is. Sweet potato hash with poached eggs. Thanks,
Delicious
everybody.
and quick.
Real quick. Hope you try that at home. See ya.
Yep. See you next time.